We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.
Alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Just a quick reminder that this is a live show. We do take in all your questions. If you want to send in a question, send us your question via the WhatsApp, email address ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv, or alternatively, give us a call live on the studio 0203 515 0199, and inshallah me and the Sheikh will be able to discuss your question. Tonight, it being the festive season, many of you will be off on holidays, many of the children will be off away from school. We here at Ahkam SOS decided to give you guys a special show in regards to holidays and seasons. We have so many questions in regards to different cultures and different holidays. Are we allowed to celebrate them? Are we allowed to participate and so forth? And we thought, what a better time would it be than, just a couple of days before Christmas that we could come sit down and answer all your queries in regards to holidays and so forth. So further ado, let us begin. I'm your host tonight, Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Ma'ar. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you this evening?
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Sheikhna, I just want to, before we start, say thank you, because I know a lot of research went into this one, especially as it's not really, Islamic fiqh and Sharia, but a lot of, Islamic thought and, sort of like philosophy around laws. And I know you've been discussing a lot with different maraja and different offices to get these answers. So let us begin with, first of all, that in the UK and outside Islamic countries, we have so many different festivals, different holidays. Some of these are not even religious. For example, here in the UK, 5th of November, we have like Guy Fawkes Night, which is nothing to do with religion, but more to do with history. And it's celebrated and commemorated, and people do it with fireworks and bonfires and so forth. So, as a Muslim, what is the ruling in regards to celebrating different cultures and traditions?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. Celebrating these events in overall, be it a religious or non-religious, let's say we want to attend the New Year's Eve's fireworks display, for example. Yeah. If there is no haram and forbidden acts associated with this attendance and meeting and gathering, there's no issue with it. You can attend, you can watch the fireworks, there's no issue with it. As far as there's no haram or in somehow supporting, let's say, corruption and so forth. So you can actually attend.
I see. And that's with all, like holidays and so forth, not just New Year's. Sheikhna, Christmas is celebrated everywhere in the UK. And according to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani Hafadullah, are we allowed to wish people Merry Christmas?
The Sayyid mentions that yes, it is permissible to basically send the greetings to Ahlul Kitab initially. Mm-hmm. You're allowed, like the Christians and Jews, in their own celebrations, such as the Christmas, Passover. Okay. And even the Sayyid goes beyond, and he says even to the non-Ahlul Kitab. Okay. Such as the Hindus, the Sikhs, for example.
Diwali and Vaisakhi.
Diwali and so forth, you can still send greetings. There's no issue with it.
MashaAllah. Sheikh, with the greetings, I mean, that's one thing is saying, Merry Christmas or, Happy Diwali and so forth. But during the Christmas time here in the UK, we get a lot of cards. I remember at school, we'd always be, writing cards and so forth. There would be a big letterbox by the office, the reception, where you could go and you'd write the name of the person and the class they're in, and you'd put it into that letterbox and so forth. And that Christmas card would go to them. Islamically speaking, are we allowed to send, Christmas cards? Are we allowed to receive Christmas cards?
Yes, that should be fine, as long as there's no haram or forbidden acts associated with this act.
And what about gifts? Because Christmas is all about Christmas presents. A lot of our, youngsters will be familiar with, Father Christmas and Santa Claus, and receiving presents under a tree and so forth. Buying Christmas presents. Islamically, am I allowed to buy a Christmas present for, a Christian friend of mine?
I mean, giving away gifts, there's no objection to this act. Again, as long as there's no haram has been involved. So you're not allowed to buy your Christian friend or neighbor a bottle of alcohol.
Okay.
For example, you're not allowed to actually give them haram. Yes. Because the exception for the pork and alcohol, you cannot give it or sell it to anybody else, even the non-Muslims, even those who consider it as to be permissible in their own religion. So to avoid the haram, then of course you can exchange gifts.
Okay, mashallah, mashallah. What about if they purchase gifts for us? So like my next door neighbor, they are Christian. So if they come over and they purchase a gift, a Christmas gift, specifically for Christmas, they purchased a gift for my family, am I allowed to accept? Should I buy one in return as well? They bought me a gift, I should buy them a gift as well?
Again, if there's no promotion for the falsehood or the batil, and there's no haram involved, basically if and somehow those exchanged gifts are halal gifts, as I've said, if your neighbor brings you a bottle of wine, then that's haram.
Yeah.
You can't accept it. So in this case, if there's no haram involved and no promotion towards the falsehood, the batil, then there's no issue with it. You can exchange gifts.
Ahsan. Sheikh, now we got a question from the WhatsApp, and it goes with, are we allowed to put up Christmas decorations, including trees? So this is to do with the household, like I'm assuming. So in my house, am I allowed to put a Christmas tree up and decorate it and so forth?
You see, if the Christmas tree represents the falsehood, represents, let's say, the Trinity, represents the Son of God, for example, represents something that is false and rejected in our belief in the Quran, in the Islamic Hadith, for example, and also there is haram with it as well associated, then it's not allowed. Otherwise, if there's no batil involved, there's no promotion for the falsehood, there's no promotion for the haram, then it's allowed. There's no issue with it. It's just a tree with decorations.
I guess with Christmas trees, it's very cultural. Not everyone actually does Christmas trees. Further, I can understand if you would say like a crucifix, like a cross, which is a clear indication of Christianity and so forth. So having that in your house wouldn't be allowed.
Sure.
But yeah, with Christmas trees, maybe a little bit more research on what it represents. But I guess if there's no haram and no propagation of a religion or so forth, then there won't be an issue in that. Sheikhna, during the Christmas period, unfortunately, due to Corona, it's been very difficult. A lot of people haven't been at work. But normally, during the Christmas period at work, there's loads of Christmas parties, Christmas lunches and so forth. Offices, they have a budget for the year for this actual gathering and so forth. As a Muslim, I'm invited for the Christmas lunch or the Christmas dinner. It's at a restaurant, the company's going to pay for it. My manager's invited the whole staff. Am I allowed to attend?
Again, if it doesn't promote the falsehood, if it doesn't involve any kind of haram acts within this dinner, then it's allowed. But usually there is always haram involved, such as you see a bottle of alcohol or wine on these tables usually. So the one should refrain from attending such dinner tables. Otherwise, there's no issue with it.
Sheikh, it's funny you mentioned that, saying that, if there's alcohol on the table, we're not allowed. What if it's a really big table? What if there's 30 people on this table, really long one? I'm at one end, and maybe, let's say there's like a Muslim halal corner that you could say. At one end, we have all the Muslims and everything. On the other end is the alcohol and so forth. Am I allowed to sit at that table?
If it was considered as one single dinner table, one sufra, one banquet, then of course it's haram. Even if it's a long 30, 40 people attending that one dinner table, you have to avoid. You can't sit on that table.
I see. What if it's loads of tables joined next to each other? And then, you know, what you could do is, with the last table, just pull it away a little bit, have a little gap, so it's not considered part of the same table. It's just two tables technically, big one and a small one.
Again, if this was considered to be as one single table dinner or one sufra, again, it's not allowed. If there is, of course, a bottle of wine or alcohol on that table, otherwise there's no issue with it. You can sit down with the rest of the non-Muslims and have the Christmas dinner or whatever else, whatever is the occasion. There's no issue with it, but you have to avoid being on that table where there's alcohol served. You cannot sit unless your table is separate. So let's say 1 or 2 meters away from this dinner table. Now you're separate. You have your own sufra, you have your own dinner table, separate from this dinner table, which has alcohol.
I see. Wow, interesting. Shaykhna, another question from the WhatsApp. My son's class has to perform a Christmas carol in front of the whole school. Even though this is a religious song, is he allowed to perform? So Christmas carol being like, you know, sometimes they're considered a religious song. Sometimes they're not religious at all. They're just, you know, in regards to the winter season. They talk about snow. They talk about being merry and giving presents and so forth, being jolly. So these carols, these traditional folk songs or so forth, are we allowed to sing these? Are we allowed to participate in carol singing that they do?
Again, if it does promote the batil or the falsehood, and also haram is associated with this program, then it's not allowed. Otherwise, it's allowed. I mean, you see the kids sometimes they gather them, they recite something for the Christmas, and if it doesn't really promote and it doesn't really influence the children towards this faith and this aqidah, then it's just a small gathering of reciting a poetry, for example. Should be fine.
Shaykhna, Christmas is most famous probably for its meals and its dinner. You know, Christmas dinner is something I guess everyone in the West looks forward to. Everyone talks about it. Traditionally, you know, they cook turkey, they cook like a roast beef or a lamb, or if you can afford it, a deer, and so forth. As Muslims, you know, we're encouraged, you know, to feed others and so forth. Everyone's got a day off. Is it all right for us to say, do you know what? Let's make a meal out of this. Let's make a day out of this. Everyone's got a day off. Let me invite some people over for Christmas. Let me put on a very, very nice dinner. Can we call our friends and families over on Christmas Day for, you know, a Christmas dinner?
Again, if there's no haram involved in this dinner, that's fine. There's no issue with it. I mean, the one can turn the intention for the Salat al-Rahim or the bond of kinship, for example, with your family and relatives, which is great. Or let's say friends, to feed your friends. We have lots of ahadith encourage the one to feed others for the cause of Allah Azza wa Jal. So the one can get reward in this way by feeding others. Maybe if the one can make even imagine a small lecture remembering Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Maybe you can bring some ahadith that Ahlul Bayt mentioned about Isa alayhi salam. How he was humble, how he was zahid in his life. Why not?
Excellent. MashaAllah, Shaykhna, a lot of research gone into this. We're going to go for a short break now, but join us after the break as we continue our discussion in regards to Islamic laws. Join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. Just a quick reminder to all of you is that this is a live show. If you have any questions you'd like to ask now, we don't need to know your name. We don't need to know where you're asking from or anything like that. No question is too silly or too taboo. Send in your questions. If you have an inquiry, maybe you're a bit embarrassed to ask someone who's older than you, maybe you don't have a good relationship with your local scholar, send it in to us. You know, via the WhatsApp, via the email address. Call us in 0203 515 0199 and we will do our duty to get you your answer. Maybe you follow a particular marja and you want the answer from a particular marja. We do our best to contact the official offices and the official representatives in order for you to get your answers. So send in your questions and inshallah we'll be able to discuss and find your answers. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykhna.
Assalamu alaikum.
Shaykhna, let us carry on with our special show here tonight in regards to the festive holiday seasons that we have in the West. Another thing that goes along with Christmas is sometimes the clothing that people wear. Now you'll see people wearing hats, you'll see people wearing elf ears and so forth. One popular item is the Christmas jumper. It's very, very famous in the UK. People have different styles and different types and so forth. Wearing a Christmas jumper, maybe I want to wear it to work or something, get involved, it's just a bit of fun, just being, having a bit of a laugh. Islamically speaking, am I allowed to wear a Christmas jumper?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, similar answer to the previous ones. If it doesn't promote falsehood or batil, and there's no haram associated with this act, then it is allowed. Let's say if somebody wears a jumper with the cross, for example, that's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Or it says on it, Son of God, for example.
Yeah.
And so forth, that promotes.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't promote and there's no haram in this issue, then there's no.
So like sometimes you'll have like Father Christmas, or you'll have like snow and a snowman and so forth. This can be acceptable.
That should be fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Ahsan. Shaykhna, after Christmas, we have like a week, and then comes New Year's. Islamically speaking, it's not an Islamic New Year; it's a Gregorian New Year. The 1st of January. Are we allowed to wish people a Happy New Year?
Yes, there's no issue with it. You can wish them Happy New Year as long as there's no haram involved. Because some people would, let's say, hug each other from opposite agenda. That's the haram, a part of the celebration or greeting or exchanging, again, a bottle of alcohol, wine, as a gift. So if there's no such haram involved, then it's allowed.
And what about the parties that they have, Shaykhna? I mean, New Year's, there's always a New Year's party. There's, as you were mentioning earlier as well, Central London puts on a big firework display. Loads of other people have their own parties and gatherings and so forth to welcome the new year, to say that, we have lived, or we've managed to survive and go through another year and look forward for new ambitions and new goals and improving oneself for the new year. Are we allowed to have these parties? Are we allowed to attend these parties and firework displays and so forth?
See, attending such parties may involve some haram. Usually there's haram involved.
Mm-hmm.
Be it music, they mix with the opposite gender, especially if they're not Muslims, with their, the way they wear and the makeup and so forth. So it's better to avoid it. We don't want to really go into such stages where we fall into haram.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to avoid it unless it's a purely non-haram party, or let's say you gathering with your friends, Muslim friends, for example. There should be no issue with it.
Shaykhna, let's bring it back to Islam, because I mentioned that the New Year on the Gregorian calendar is the 1st of January. What's the Islamic New Year? A lot of people would say it's Muharram, and we don't really celebrate Muharram as such. We commemorate the death of Imam Hussein and so forth. So, Islamically speaking, what is the New Year?
In Islamic calendar, the New Year should be in Rabi' al-Awwal, which is the migration of the Holy Prophet from Mecca to Medina.
Okay.
So the start should be in Rabi' al-Awwal and not in Muharram. Muharram is not the actual or the correct calendar for the Muslims, because Bani Umayyah brought this calendar for the Muslims to celebrate the victory against Imam Hussein in Karbala.
I see.
So we shouldn't follow Bani Umayyah in this issue. The correct one is the one in Rabi' al-Awwal.
Okay.
You start the New Year in Rabi' al-Awwal.
I see.
The migration of the Prophet from Mecca to Medina. Even though if we say that, for the case of argument, that it's in Muharram, we shouldn't celebrate. We are in commemoration, because commemorations take over the celebrations.
Yes.
So we have to commemorate this great event of Karbala and Ashura. So even though we still have to ignore and stop all these celebrations in this holy and sad month of Muharram.
I see. MashaAllah. Excellent, excellent. Shaykhna, we have different seasonal festivals and so forth. According to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, are we allowed to send seasonal greetings to people, whether it's verbal or whether it's a card or so forth? And it could be a range. I mentioned, you mentioned the New Year. I mentioned Guy Fawkes. If you look in the West, in Italy, in Europe, in Spain, in America, they have things like Thanksgiving and so forth. There's so many different festivals and different seasons. Are we allowed to send greetings according to His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sistani, Hafidhullah?
The Sayyid mentions that there is no harm in greeting them in such occasions. So you can actually greet them, that's fine. The important, as I've said, there should be no haram involved in such greetings. You shouldn't actually greet them by hugging them, for example, which is the opposite gender. Yes. They have it for themselves normal, they hug each other and so forth. But we are not allowed to actually go beyond the Shari'i restrictions and boundary. So you can just say, happy, occasion and so forth, give the cards, but not beyond the haram act.
I see. MashaAllah. Shaykhna, a question from the WhatsApp, and that is, Salam, what is the current rule about ethanol and ethanol in hand sanitizers? Ethanol, I think, is an alcohol, isn't it, Shaykh? So what's the Islamic ruling on that? Is this considered a najis or not?
You see, the alcohol used in perfumes, in soaps, in shampoos, and so forth, if they are from the non-intoxicating type, then you're allowed to use them. But if they're from intoxicating, then it's, of course, you have to avoid it. It's haram to use. And najis. So in the soaps, in the perfumes, people ask about them. So they are halal and tahir to use. There's no issue with it. Unless you become certain that they have actually put in some perfumes, which I've found in one of the perfumes, they actually added champagne, for example. Then you have to avoid it.
I see.
You have to avoid this perfume because there's a najis substance within this perfume. Otherwise, the industrial alcohol is allowed and halal.
With ethanol, I think ethanol actually is the alcohol that's intoxicant that you can drink. So whoever sent in this question, please verify with the company that are making these items. But to my knowledge, I think ethanol is actually an intoxicant, and you wouldn't be able to continue to use that. Shaykhna, next question is, are we allowed to trade bank stocks considering that these businesses sometimes concur interest rates?
Yes, the one can actually deal with these banks, but the one must make sure that he doesn't or she doesn't deal with the interest section of the bank. So they don't actually pay the customers the interest or take interest from the customers and so forth. You should be away from dealing the haram in the bank.
I see.
Similar to the one who works in a supermarket, but he doesn't work in the wine section. He would work in the bakery section or the fruits and vegetables section. You shouldn't be in that section of haram.
Final question, Shaykhna, from the WhatsApp as well. Salam, respected Shaykh, kindly recommend a dua or activity that can get rid of obsessive thought which occur during obligatory Islamic duties. Thanks and Jazakallah khair. So this brother or sister here is asking a dua to help them concentrate. Maybe it's to do with reciting Quran, maybe they're listening to a majalis, maybe, and this is common with very with a lot of people actually, is in salah as well, to keep your concentration and not go astray. Shaykh, can you recommend us a dua or something to help us focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala while we're carrying out our acts?
The one can recite Surah Yasin every day.
Okay.
That would help a lot. And there's other benefits for this recitation of the Yasin every day. Also, to start his, let's say the Salah, before actually reciting the Hamd and Surah. So when he says Allahu Akbar in Salah and he begins his Salah, before saying Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillah, he would say, A'udhu billah as-Sami' al-Alim min ash-Shaytan ar-Rajim. That would help to reduce this obsessiveness and waswasa and shak and doubts in the salah. Also, the one can actually ignore whatever comes to his mind or her mind in terms of the obsessiveness and waswasa. Just ignore it and continue with your act of wudu or salah or ghusl. So if you did wudu and you have doubt or shak that is this correct wudu or not, should I repeat it? You have to ignore it. Say inshallah that this wudu is correct and continue with the wudu and with the afterwards the salah. Because this is basically the source of this obsessiveness and waswasa is the shaitan. The hadith from Imam As-Sadiq alayhi salam, where Abdullah ibn Sinan, he says to the Imam that a man has a problem in his wudu and his salah as well. So he always have the waswasa. Maybe he repeats his salah many times, he repeats his wudu. He is, let's say, under taking the shower longer than necessary to do the ghusl and so forth. So he wants some kind of answer from the Imam alayhi salam. What can this individual do? Then he says to the Imam that وَقُلْتُ هُوَ رَجُلٌ عَاقِلٌ, and he is a wise man. He's not an insane man. He's a wise man. Let's say he's a businessman. He's got a shop. He's got a family to run. A man who is not insane, and still he is in this obsessive situation and waswasa. The Imam alayhi salam, As-Sadiq, he responds to Ibn Sinan that وَأَيُّ عَقْلٍ لَهُ وَهُوَ يُطِيعُ الشَّيْطَانِ. What kind of sane is this individual or this man while he is obeying the shaitan? When the one repeats his salah many times or takes 20 minutes just to do the wudu and repeats his wudu maybe 10 times, he wipes his hand, for example, or washes his hand 10 times. This act is the act of shaitan, telling him that no, this was wrong, do again, no, do again, do again, and so forth, repeat it again. For being in such situation, the Imam says this is from shaitan. He is obeying the shaitan. One of the tools and ways of shaitan to deceive the human being is through the waswasa and whispering in his mind and his ears in his ibadah, that your ibadah, your worship is wrong, do it again, your salah is wrong, do it again. Then the Imam says, Salhu, ask him, this man who is in trouble of obsessiveness and waswasa, الذي يأتيه من أي شيء هو, the thing that comes to him, this whisper of repeating the salah, repeating the wudu, or taking long in doing the wudu, for example, من أي شيء هو فإنه يقول لك من عمل الشيطان. The Imam says that the man would answer you that this is from the act of shaitan. The shaitan and the Satan is whispering onto you to repeat this amal, to repeat this worship. So the one should be careful not to fall into the problem and the trouble of the whispering and the waswas of the shaitan. Very important.
Ahsan, thank you very much, Shaykhna. And thank you to all of you for joining us. Inshallah, join us back on Monday, inshallah, which is Boxing Day, believe it or not, for another live episode of Ahkam SOS. Just a quick reminder to all our viewers that please, COVID situation here in the UK has got a lot more difficult. Please look after yourselves, wash your hands, keep social distancing and so forth. Keep yourselves healthy and enjoy the rest of the holidays, inshallah. Join us again on Monday, 6:30 here on Imam Hussein TV 3. This has been Ahkam SOS. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
We question our daily position, seeking answers and definitions. Get the queries off your chest with Ahkam SOS.